Hi, Jacq Hackett here with a Friday Thought coming to you from Los Angeles. I'm on the second leg of my trip to visit my sons, so on with into Los Angeles yesterday. So after a long flight, little bit jet lagged, probably looking a bit worse for the wear, but here I am anyway. So while I was still in London last week, I had a mentoring session via Skype with Jane, who has been consulting for about 8 months, doing really well, really loving it. And one of the things she wanted to talk to me about and get some advice about was managing project scope, because she was really struggling with that. So the first thing I wanted to really understand when I talked with Jane was, was the issue around scope to do with one of two problems. The first being underquoting. So she would be quoting for a project and then, realize once she got into the project that she hadn't really scoped the project out accurately enough, and therefore the time and the costs were kind of blowing out. Or the second issue, that wasn't Jane's issue, by the way. And also, if you're struggling with that issue, then I've written a blog post about it. I write quite a lot about it. Head to my website to see that blog post about underquoting. I also teach a whole module in my masterclass program about it, because it is a really tricky issue to get right, accurately quoting for a project. But Jane's problem wasn't that. Jane's problem was that she would start the project and things at the client end would shift and the project scope would shift. Now that is really not uncommon. Once you start a project, you get a lot more information than you did, in the days before when you're just putting the quote together. And sometimes you realize that you and the client realize that you might want to do things slightly differently. The client might want to change the scope of the stakeholder consultations, that kind of thing. So it's not uncommon. So Jane was okay with that and was able to shift and be flexible with it. But what she wasn't doing was going back to the client to renegotiate the costs, and that's what she was really struggling with. And really, it's probably about two issues most commonly. One is it's because it's talking about money. And when you move from the employment situation, especially in the public sector, I think, to running your own business, we can be really uncomfortable about talking about money. So that was one thing. The second thing I think it's about your worth. It's about kind of having to step up and talk about your worth and your value and own that. So that, Jane said she was a bit paralyzed by this thing about having to go to the client and renegotiate and ask for more money, in a sense. So my message to her, and really to you, all of you as well, is, clients expect it. Actually, clients are fine with this stuff. They understand this is a financial transaction that's going on. Your time is is money. Now, you're pretty much always going to have to raise it. The client is not necessarily thinking that through. They're not thinking about, oh, well, that will mean, when you're in a meeting and they agree to a change in the scope, or they request a change in the scope. It's not like they're necessarily going to think, all right, and raise, well, what that will mean, of course, is you will have to give us an adjusted quote. You'll have to raise it, but I have not come across in my nearly 19 years of consulting, I have not come across a client who isn't totally fine with it and totally expects it. So if you've been struggling with that, you just need to shift your mindset a bit and kind of get over it and treat it as part of day-to-day business transactions. Clients expect it, and it will be an absolutely okay conversation. So I hope that's helpful. Jane certainly found it helpful, and I hope that's helpful for you too. Have a great Friday.